Good evening and welcome to the Chanel Show. Three major bills were debated and passed in Parliament this week. The Registration of Sex Offenders Bill, the review of the Climate Change Bill 2021, and the Births, Deaths and Marriage Registration Amendment Bill 2021. Sexual offences are on the rise and everyone agrees that something needs to be done to reduce these numbers dramatically. The Fijian government has introduced a bill to register sex offenders. Opposition Whip Honourable Linda Tambuya weighing in on the bill.
Would it then make sense for what has been submitted from opposition that there be a consideration of perhaps a repeat offence, like they have in overseas jurisdictions after 2 offences, then you go on the register, so that first offenders, though they're convicted and they may be go away for, they might have their conviction discharged without conviction like juveniles are given, or other sentences that are, bound over or whatever it is, that this be considered for a repeat offender to go on the register after 2 offences and more. Now that you're considering that this will be pretty much in the register for life, balancing the rights of the sex offender.
We have to let them molest at least 2 or 3 times before they go in that register. The AG, Honourable Ayaz Said Qayyum, responded.
Sir, I'm a bit concerned about what Honourable Tambuya is saying. On one hand, they've been talking about the impact of pornography, about the increase in sexual offences. Now they're saying that even if you can only put a person on the register if they've committed sexual offences more than once. So the first time they've done it, even though they may have violently raped somebody or a young child, young boy, we don't put them on. That's what you're saying, essentially. You're saying that if I do it again, or 3 times, then only, you said third strike out. Only after the 3rd time I've done it to somebody, then my name goes on the register.
The AG and the opposition whip then having this exchange.
Read the section. It does not say that if you touch somebody, you commit a sexual offence. Read the section.
You've mentioned if someone touches someone's, back or behind, if it's a woman, she may take offense to it and see it as a sexual assault. That's touching. That to her is sexual.
Please.
Yes, sexual harassment policy.
Sexual
harassment policy, and that's a sexual assault. That is a sexual assault.
No, sir,
when you touch someone, it's an assault. Just to clarify.
All right. You ask for clarification. Honourable Attorney General will clarify. You have.
Honourable Tambuya is digging herself into a hole. Let me just read this again. Offence of a rape, attempt to commit rape, assault with intent to commit rape, sexual assault, Mr. Speaker, sir, and it says a person commits an indictable offence, not summary offence, indictable offence, which is triable if he or she unlawfully and indecently assaults another person or procures another person without the person's consent to commit an act of gross indecency or to witness an act of gross indecency by the person or any other person. Gross indecency. Honourable Tambuya, you would know as your days as a prosecutor that the courts have developed the jurisprudence around this. One of the problems we have at the moment, that a lot of females are complaining, is sexual harassment is not specifically captured here. If I go and touch somebody on the back, it's not gross indecency. You know that as a lawyer. If I touch a female on the back, it's not gross indecency.
So Delpa MP, Honourable Mitiali Bulanouda, then dropped this bomb.
As I move, sir, to delete this establishment of this register, because it allows registration of sex offender for life. That's what I oppose. You need to give them time to change for a better person. The approach here in this bill, Honourable Speaker, sir, that I do not support. The it is founded on hate. You're hating the person. You should hate the evil that is in that person. And the bill is founded on to condemn a person when he's sex offender.
The bill is founded to condemn the sex offender? Isn't that kind of the point? Honorable Lenorang Gerengere Tambua then stood up with this contribution.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. I just want to take this opportunity, while Honourable Bulanotha may have his point of view, and some of us are laughing at him, some of us are laughing with him, I just want all honourable members to remember that the people of Fiji are watching us, and to hear people laughing while we're discussing this very serious matter is very unparliamentary. Thank you.
She's worried that people are laughing instead of the fact that an MP is asking for the sex register to be removed. The AG responded, asking for NFP to clarify their position.
Mr. Speaker, sir, it's very interesting how NFP always obfuscates matters. They don't have the courage to say anything against what Sodelpa says. Even though they may disagree with it, it is very interesting how Honorable Gerengere Tambua just twisted the whole thing and saying, we are laughing at it and the people of Fiji are watching. What would have been more useful from her is to tell us whether she agrees with Honorable Bulanotha or not. Yeah. She didn't have the courage to say that. And people are watching her and the other female members from the other side too. I saw when Honorable Bulanotha made that intervention, Honorable Linda Tambua signaling to somebody to second it. Honorable Bulanotha saying he doesn't want this register. That's the whole purpose of this act. That's the entire purpose of this act. So he does not want this act. He said to get, so it is not functional. So the opposition needs to tell us what is their position.
I think opposition's position is quite clear. Here's a summary.
Would it then make sense for what has been submitted from opposition that there be a consideration of perhaps a repeat offense, that this be considered for a repeat offender to go on the register after 2 offenses and more?
As I move, sir, to delete this establishment of this register.
Hear people laughing while we're discussing this very serious matter is very unparliamentary. Thank you.
Balancing the rights of the sex offender.
The AG then explained the point of the sex register.
Mr. Speaker, sir, we have said both sides of Parliament have agreed that the rise in sexual offences need to be curtailed dramatically. We need to have community awareness about it. We need to ensure that the patriarchal notions and most people who are victims of sexual offences are females. That is a fact. And we have to ensure that these patriarchal notions of how we view women as sexual objects and how we see them as second-class citizens, all of that is part and parcel of this building up of a colossal of laws and practices to ensure that this stops, if we are really serious about it. So Honorable Bulanotha has said this, essentially, and saying that he's not for this. Mr. Speaker, sir, my challenge is that to the NGOs and the women's groups that are listening to this, I hope they also have the courage to come out and condemn what Honorable Bulanotha has done. And the point is that this act is to ensure that we have a shield of deterrence mechanisms in our laws that these people don't commit the offense. If somebody is thinking of committing an offense, that they think twice, 3 times, 4 times. They don't see some vulnerable kid who's walking down the street in a cinema or going to the farm that they can do whatever they like with them. They need to know that.
After the break, we look at the review of the Climate Change Bill 2021. Welcome back. Also debated in Parliament this week was the review of the Climate Change Bill 2021. The bill's primary purpose is to implement Fiji's international commitments and obligations to reduce its carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gas emissions by establishing a comprehensive response to climate change and providing for the regulation and governance of the national response to climate change, and introducing a system for the measurement, reporting, and verification of greenhouse gas emissions and related matters. The opposition was not happy, calling for consultations. Check it out.
Further effective and meaningful consultations are necessary to address overlapping and to ensure consistency.
We just wish, Honourable Speaker, that this matter could have been taken to the people in a more inclusive way.
These, Honourable Speaker, are fundamental issues that need to be considered through dialogue and consultation work before we put into place a framework that will work, taking into account the fundamentals highlighted above.
Yeah, we need to have such law. But we need more clarification and consultations.
Fijian Prime Minister Honorable Frank Bainimarama, however, slammed opposition for being missing in action during the 18 months of consultations that took place.
The bill, sir, has been drafted with technical inputs and support from a remarkable team of national and international experts. It underwent at least 18 months of extensive public consultations with ordinary people, technical and policy teams, the private sector, and civil society. Unfortunately, sir, no member of the opposition provided zero input on the bill in that period, not in the 18 months. Though they had opportunities to comment on the first, second, and third drafts. In case they were confused, I should tell them the term net zero only applies to levels of carbon emissions, not the levels of contribution. Rather than make a meaningful contribution through the years it's taken to formulate this bill, as so many climate-conscious Fijians have done, they and their cronies sniped at the bill in the media and then waited until the very last moment to speak on the bill in the standing committee. So they have no right to come here and lecture us about consultation now. No right at all.
Order.
To do so is to disrespect the thousands of Fijians whose voices and perspectives have helped shape this bill. Instead, they should look in the mirror and ask themselves why every one of them was missing in action while my government wrote our blueprint to confront the greatest threat we ever faced. If there's any issue we all agree on, it should be this.
Honorable Linda Tambuya seemed to think that there was a carbon trading project in Namboa, which obviously is not true. She was quickly corrected by the Prime Minister.
In the meantime, Honourable Speaker, the multi-million-dollar failed carbon trading project of Namboa sits on the highway, a ghost town of unfulfilled promises by this government in the name of climate change.
And I just want to apologize to Honorable Tambuya, but the records that coming from this side, I couldn't stop them. I just want to tell her that the Namboa is not carbon trading, as she stated. It's a different thing.
Order.
And to all those landowners listening in, when Honorable Noekula made his statement, I just want to tell everyone, this Honorable Speaker, that he is misinforming Parliament when he says consent does not work.
Order.
Nothing original from this man, from this honorable member. Honorable Speaker, same old. I want to inform everyone that consent by the landowners is pivotal in the leasing of any land in Fiji. I don't know where he's coming from. And this is supposedly someone who used to work in TLTB some years ago. No wonder TLTB nearly collapsed during his term and after his term. Honorable Speaker, referred to the most recent report of the IPCC as a code red for the planet, from devastating floods to dangerous wildfires. And one thing is clear, that climate crisis is already here. And failure to act now jeopardizes the livelihoods of future generations. Something doesn't seem to, the other side of the house don't seem to understand. The climate change, Honourable Speaker, is the challenge of our lifetime. Whether we accept it or not, it will fundamentally change Fiji. How is up to us. Either we will be destroyed by stronger storms and swallowed by the rising seas, or we will change ourselves to be more resilient and become a model that the world can follow to stave off the worst of climate change. Today, Honourable Speaker, we choose the latter. When the world looks for champions for the climate and for the security of coming generations, they look to our islands. They look to Fijians. We have contributed to the fight for solutions through our global leadership.
The Minister for Climate Change also weighing in on Nambo.
It's the same way, Mr. Speaker, sir, she got it completely incorrect, that Nambo is not a carbon trading enterprise. Mr. Speaker, sir, Nambo, as the Honourable Minister for Electrification will tell you, Mr. Speaker, sir, Nambo was about using renewable energy sources to run the furnace to produce energy to sell to EFL. It's not carbon trading, Mr. Speaker, sir. So she said, what's wrong with it? This is a separate issue. But she used it as a carbon trading issue.
After the break, a look at Births, Deaths and Marriage Registration Amendment Bill 2021. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. The Births, Deaths and Marriage Registration Amendment Bill 2021 gained quite a bit of attention this week. The bill seeks to amend sections 11, 15, 23 and 24 of the 1975 Births, Deaths and Marriages Registration Act to permit the mother of a child born in Fiji to register her child and to give her equal status to that of the father of the child, reduce the age requirement from 21 to 18, and remove the requirement for a deed poll for a name change, among other things. The opposition whip fired at the bill with this statement.
Not only are they taking away the right of a married woman to use her married name to register and to vote, which is what she's been using in the form of her ID, in all other IDs, it will also cost those that need to change. It will cost those that need to change their names if they choose not to use their name on the birth certificate, Honourable Speaker. They have to go through a deed poll change, a legal change in their names in order to use their married name. And Honourable Speaker, that costs money. Yeah, you have to go to a lawyer and have almost up to $500 to pay for a deed poll change. And this is what this government is not considering when they're bringing about this change. This, Honourable Speaker, will just continue to discriminate our voters, so it makes it harder to vote next year, especially our women in the rural areas.
The AG, however, firing back with this.
Honourable Tambuya again jumped the gun, brought in women's issues. But she forgets to look at the various amendments we've made. She has not read it in full. This is why, Mr. Speaker, sir, in the introduction of this, I refrained from going into the details of it, because I thought the opposition, who will have 3 hours to look at these 3 bills, will be able to study the bills, come back to us on Wednesday, and perhaps make more intelligent comments. But they have failed to do so. She said married women should have the right to use their husband's name. Of course, the law does not stop that. In fact, Mr. Speaker, sir, in fact, we've given women the option. If she looks at the amendments under the BDM Act, Mr. Speaker, sir, registration, if you look at the existing law, it says only the father of the child can register the son or daughter. Only the father. We made an amendment that should be the mother or father. Mother or father. We have also said, she went on about the deed poll.
Order.
She should read the amendment. She should read the amendment. We've removed the requirement of getting a deed poll done. No longer, have to go to expensive lawyers to get a deed poll done. You simply go to the birth registration office. If so, for example, a woman who's married now and decides to adopt her husband's name, all she simply has to do is go to the BRN office. I want to change my name. They'll register it. Birth certificate will be given. Very simple.
Order.
Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir. You see, you're caught out. Mr. Speaker, sir, she has the option. If you married a Mr. Prasad, you want to become Mrs. Prasad, your choice. You want to retain your name as Tambuya, you can retain your name as Tambuya. Your choice. Nobody's forcing you. And now, you don't have to do a deed poll. You simply just go to the BDM office. We have dozens now throughout the country where you can go and register your new name should you wish to do so. And the point, Mr. Speaker, sir, I don't know what you're on about. The point is, Mr. Speaker, sir. The point is, Mr. Speaker, sir, the existing law at the moment is that there are a lot of irregularities. So because there is no opportunity to do that, there are many women, when they get married, under the current regulations, if they want a passport, they can go to the passport office and they'll say, this is my birth certificate, this is my marriage certificate, I want my passport to be under Mrs. Kappa. They can do that. That was the previous way of doing it. But Mrs. Kappa won't be captured in the BDM. Currently, when somebody dies and the police have to issue a death certificate, they don't go by the name that somebody gives them. They have to look at the birth certificate name to give a death certificate. All we are simply trying to do, Mr. Speaker, sir, is to ensure that we have the right name for the right person. And that name, Mr. Speaker, sir, is known throughout all your official records. If in the meantime, Honorable Tambuya wants to change her name to Miss Linda Prasad, right? She has the opportunity to go and do that. She can simply go, no deed poll, simply go and register at BDM, and now as provided under the amendment, the BDM registrar is compelled to inform all the other agencies that we had a Linda Tambuya, Honorable Linda Tambuya who came in, she's now going to be Honorable Linda Prasad. If, however, Honorable Linda Prasad, 5 years later, for example, wants to become Honorable Linda Maharaj, she can become Honorable Linda Maharaj, she can go and change her name. We've also allowed under the law that if a husband wants to adopt the name of her wife, of his wife, they can do that. Some people do that.
The AG calling Honorable Tambuya out and questioning whether she read the amendment at all. The amendment does in fact remove the need for a deed poll. Another interesting exchange was between Honorable Nico Nawaikula and the AG. The AG hitting out at Honorable Nawaikula for misleading Parliament. Have a look.
What will be the impact of this to the VKB? What will be the impact of this to the culture of the Turkey? Their culture which is reflected in the maintenance of that register in the VKB. In which case, in most cases, they have to go through the patrilineal line. And if not, there has to be an agreement. And all those will come out if, rightfully, as the law requires, this amendment is to be referred to a parliamentary committee so that the input of the experts, the input of those affected, the input of the stakeholders are brought in.
Trying to create this ruckus, trying to make the people feel, oh, somehow or the other the VKB is under attack just because they've changed the law. Now women can register their sons and daughters, therefore VKB is under threat. Honorable Gavin Baravi, you know that too. But they sit there mute, not correcting him, because they believe in the politics of fear. They believe in the politics of creating ethnic division. This is what it fundamentally boils down to.
That's all we have for you on tonight's show. We hope that you got a better understanding of some things that were discussed in this week's parliamentary proceedings. A lot went on in Parliament this week, and we tried our best to get the major highlights across to you. Until next week, good evening and take care.